Hey there, seekers of spiritual, tangible results.
Welcome to the no-nonsense zone, where common sense meets the spiritual. I'm Jason Parks.
I'm Emma Romano, your unapologetically real spiritual guides.
We don't sugarcoat, we don't dance around the woo-woo, we just deliver the raw, kick-ass truth.
Join us each episode as we dive deep into the mystical, cut through the bullshit, and show you how to manifest the tangible results you've been craving for.
No fluff, no filters, just two mentors on a mission to elevate your mind, body and soul.
Get ready to transform your life like never before. This is Soul Aligned Results, where spirituality meets the real Welcome world. Everybody, this is Emma Romano and the amazing
Jason Parks.
Hello. How are we today? We good? Jason this is a very, very, very good topic and very good topic for a podcast. Jason, I'm going to leave it with you. Go for it. Please explain, because this is Jason's title. Go for it.
We're going to call this one The Only Way. The Only Way is Down.
Yay.
And what it's about, at the moment, the time when we're recording this, there's a bit of a news story that's running around about a fellow by the name of Andrew Huberman, who's a professor of neuroscience in the US and is really kind of a poster boy for science, self-hacking, how science will help you with everything from weight loss to increasing your learning and all that sort of thing. I like his stuff. I like what he offers. I think it's great. But regardless, this story's come out in the news that's saying that he's been accused of being unfaithful in his relationships. He's a womanizer. He's a philanderer. He's all these sorts of bits and pieces. And on one level, it's kind of irrelevant. It's kind of irrelevant that this is being said about him, because at the moment, it's just being said about him. It hasn't been proven. It's just an allegation. And but what is really interesting is the way that people have just exploded on this, and the way they've responded predictably is everything this man ever said is a lie, and we have to burn the lot. And this is part of this problem that I saw many times. I know I've done it myself in earlier years, where when we start on any sort of spiritual work, we look for teachers. We look for people who inspire us, and we start to follow their teachings. Now, what happens is people get caught up in that and they start to project onto the teacher. And I've watched this many times where they project onto a teacher, and then ultimately the poor old teacher gets caught in the position where they fail to meet the unrealistic expectations of their followers.
Yeah.
And then it all goes to shit.
Yep.
And part of what we're seeing here is this. It's quite interesting that that it's so prevalent. There's a few things about this that I like a list. So I've got a list, right? So this
the
is
man has a list. Go on.
So first of all, we have the failure to meet unrealistic expectations. It's like, yeah, they're not going to, because they're human. And even what you want them to do has come out of your head.
Yes.
It's not come out of them. Now, teachers often get into agreement with it because they're human. So people will get caught up in it. And it's a little bit of that celebrity problem where everybody starts worshiping you as being wise and successful and all of these things. And then after a while, you start thinking maybe it's true. So that's called believing your own bullshit.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. When you start believing your own bullshit, you're in trouble. This is where it all starts to collapse, because ultimately it's just bullshit. There's no truth at all. So people get into agreement. That's fair enough. I mean, it's that celebrity problem. We see that with like young athletes. You said if you've come out of school, somebody's paying you millions and millions of dollars to do a thing that you enjoy doing. You've never done any other work your entire life. And you've got women, fame, popularity, money, whatever you want. And you're like 22. Said, unless you've got really good mentors around you, that is just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And that's why it often is a disaster, because people are not set up to win, they're set up to fail. So it's in that the purpose of the teacher, like we have to understand that the teacher, their job is to assist you in your practice. It's not for you to follow their practice. Their job is to assist you in your practice. All of these problems all get down to one problem. And that problem is I don't want to take responsibility for my own practice.
Yep.
So we have this issue, like when I run a regular meditation group and we have agreements around that. The way I've structured that's very, very specific. And part of it is there's no hierarchy.
That's
I run
right.
the group because it's like a chairman of a meeting. Someone has to chair it, and that's a particular role. But there is no hierarchy, because the moment you put a hierarchy in a situation like that, said people start striving to move up the ladder. And then it all starts to factionalize and it all turns ugly. But in the agreements that we have is that everybody comes to this group action as autonomous individuals. And when we see other people, when people talk about their practice, what they're doing, things like that, it is important that we remember that the purpose of that is to inspire us in our own practice, but not to define our practice as being lesser than or better than. That everybody's going through their own journey at their own pace. So if we encounter other people doing things, we should use that as a moment of reflection. So even when we hear things like a celebrity is being dragged down because of their vices, said that should not be a point where we stop and gloat. That should be a point where we should go, whoa, what vices am I entertaining right now that just haven't caught up to me?
Oh, that's big.
If you're in any leadership position, you should be constantly asking that question.
Oh,
Constantly.
consistently.
Yeah. Because if you don't, that's how you get blindsided.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So next point is really what people do, and I found this early on in my life. I lost a lot of my friends in an afternoon years ago. This is going back a long time, but I had a whole heap of friends, and I found out my thought was that they admired what I was doing by pursuing the Shaolin, all that sort of stuff. I thought they admired it, and they'd said so many times. But there was a point where I did something that they didn't agree with. And they didn't know, they didn't talk to me about it, but they had decided amongst themselves what it meant and what it was. And therefore they decided that it was my problem. And I realized in that moment that it was like, these guys want me to carry the moral load that they don't want to carry. So by by them saying, yeah, I've got a mate who followed his dream, then that makes it okay for them to not bother following theirs.
This is what happened to Jack.
Yeah.
This is what
So
happened to my son literally a few months ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big deal. People
It's a
do it all the
huge
time.
deal. Yeah. He literally, as
Yeah,
he lost 4 of his friends. They just
yeah,
decided not to talk to him. And when we found out months later, it's because Jack's he's traveling a lot, he's working, he's doing things, he does a lot of spiritual work. They do nothing.
yeah,
Like literally nothing. Nothing.
yeah.
Yeah. And so big, isn't it?
I just want to say something about that, because
Yeah.
what happened was all that happened, and on the surface, if you're not paying attention, it's easy to get dragged into the short term and just go, wow, that's terrible. Poor Jack.
It
So,
wasn't.
well,
It's the best thing that's happened to him. I've got to tell you now.
oh God, his life has gone ahead in leaps and bounds.
Yeah,
So on
definitely.
every level, he is
Every
just
single
gone.
level, every level.
Yeah.
Like
I refer,
he got rid of the dead weight.
yeah. So I refer back to a previous episode called Soaring with Turkeys.
Yes.
There's more information about that. But
Yes.
but honestly, it's that thing about people wanting a teacher to carry a moral load so they don't have to. Said that is a huge and immensely unfair thing to do to a teacher. And
Yeah.
and it's the same when it gets down to things like books.
Mm-hmm.
Books.
Mm-hmm.
Books are a big deal because at the moment we've got this cancel culture expanding.
Yeah. Yes.
People think it's a new thing. Said they were burning books. I mean, the library at Alexandria was burnt by the first
Mm.
Christian emperor. Why? Because it was pagan,
Yep.
right? It was like it said once you decide if you decide that something's good and something's bad, then that separation
Mm.
gives people the right in their own moral authority to be able to do awful things. It's the fundamental of how a person can be violent to another human being. They have to switch off all empathy. So the
Mm-hmm.
more empathy you can get rid of, the more violent you are capable of being,
Yep.
the more heinous your actions are capable of being, because empathy really is what the foundation of spiritual evolution is. It's developing more and more empathy. So, so with that, like what we have with things like the book burning and the canceling, I got a story for you. There's a teaching in Chan Buddhism. Now, Chan Buddhism is famous for not using scripture, not using texts.
Mm-hmm.
It's famous for just going, you just need to be putting time in on the cushion and doing the work, and everything you need comes in through the connection with your own divine nature.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So at one point in China, young monks decided that they were going to strike a blow for Chan. They were going to really set the world on fire, and they got everything out of the library and set fire to it in a bonfire.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And while they were burning it and cheering that what good things they'd done, this old monk was watching the whole thing, just turned to one of them and said, "It would have been better if we burnt the books in our hearts," and walked.
Oh, wow.
And this is the problem with cancel culture. They said we want, because things make us uncomfortable, because things challenge us, we want to suppress it. Said we shouldn't. What we should do is understand it. I remember, oh, God, going back a long time now, but I remember reading Mein Kampf, which was Adolf Hitler's book,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I read it because I wanted to understand it. Said I thought I understood what that was about. And then I was like, wait a minute, I don't understand. I've never actually seen anything that was like a primary source material. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, some things are truly objectionable and you don't need to get primary, but you need to do a bit of research. And as you could buy that over the counter in a bookshop, it was like, well, that's okay. It's not like I'm searching for some banned text. So I started reading this book and it was fascinating in how fucking boring it was. So this guy replicated over like nearly 900 pages, one paragraph, that things were shit and unfair, and the people of Germany have suffered for it, and it's the fault of the Jews. And
Wow.
then you just do that for 800 pages,
Oh
900
my
pages,
God,
right? It's
boring.
just rantings
Yeah.
of a guy. And you're just going, okay, so now I really understand everything I need to know about fascism. Because
Yeah.
it's not going anywhere. So one of the problems with spiritual books, though, is that people don't get it. They read something and they don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to name it, but we all know that there's a particularly popular book, right? Um, well, actually, I will name it, the Bible,
Well, I
right? The
was going to say,
Bible,
we talking about the Bible? Yeah.
yeah, the Bible gets a bad
Yeah.
rap.
Like
And
what
I mention
book?
it because I got
Have
to
I
tell
read
you this story.
it?
Right. So I bought a Bible recently. I say recently, probably about 18 months ago. And I walked into a Christian bookshop and I took my young daughter with me. And we walked in. I said, "Oh, this will be interesting. You've never been to one of these shops. So have a look." And we walked in and she's like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, looking around, looking around. We're looking around." And I said, "Okay, go and have a look." Anyway, I said, I want to buy a Bible. And the woman's lovely woman behind the counter was like, "No worries at all. Come over here." And then she showed me this wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, so which one is the Bible? And she's like, oh no, they're all Bibles. They're just depending upon which denomination you belong to. And my mind immediately went,
But which one's
aren't these
right?
denominations?
Yeah.
Aren't denominations the guys that say that this is the unadulterated word of
Yeah.
God, and yet they've all edited it to suit their church? And
Yep.
now this is not about the Bible. The Bible, the reason I bought one is it's a book of immense spiritual value.
Mm-hmm.
So the lessons in that are profound. But what people are doing with it, and I give an example. My daughter comes back to me and she's got this DVD and she's like, Daddy, Daddy, what's this? And I pick up this DVD and I kid you not, I looked at it and I saw $6 and I said, darling, this is a bargain. That's what this is, but we'll leave it alone. It was somebody had done stop motion Lego of the Passion of the Christ.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
Mel
Yeah,
Gibson's
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah. So he's this Lego Jesus covered in Lego blood, right? Who's been horribly tortured. And I'm just like, oh my God, it is literally that
Oh.
movie done in Lego. And I put it back on the shelf and I said, darling, this is not for you.
That's for nobody.
Right.
This is not for
Right.
anyone, sweetie. Yeah.
But honestly, is that if that, like, why is that in a section for like 5-year-olds? Who said, because it's important. It's important that people know how much Christ suffered. It is, but the 5-year-olds need to watch prolonged 90 minutes of torture of an innocent man as portrayed in that movie as a way of setting a moral compass for them.
I remember
Said,
there was a show and it was Jesus called Jesus of Nazareth.
yeah,
And I'm
I remember.
53. Do you remember it? And
I
I
remember it.
think I must have been in primary school. I must have been about 10 or I was definitely under the age of 11, right? And I watched it and it was like on a Wednesday night or whatever it was, or I can't remember. I sat and watched it. I don't know how many episodes it was. And then literally my mother banned me from watching it because I was inconsolable. I
Mm.
was so upset for what happened to Jesus and his mum and all that. And I was so upset. She goes, you cannot watch the rest of this. I can't. And my mum back then, I remember there was a letter that came home I went to a Catholic all girls school. There was a letter that came home and said, we really recommend your children to watch this. And she said, there is absolutely freaking no way you're watching this again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I still don't really remember what happened in what I watched, but I remember the emotion that caused inside of me.
Yeah.
That it created. It was very big.
Yeah. It was
Sorry.
huge in its day. I mean,
Yeah.
we're going back because I'm the same age as you. So
Yeah.
I remember they came out, we got a letter as well. Said it was huge, huge show. But it was really there's a funny thing that's happening at the moment in the US where some of the states in the US have banned objectionable material. Said people have politically lobbied and successfully got material that is considered to be offensive to be banned from the school system.
Mm.
Unfortunately, they didn't read the Bible. So the Bible is on the list now as books that are being worked through because when you
Mm.
read the Bible, you realize it's full of torture and incest and adultery and war and every sin imaginable,
Mm.
right? And people have gone, hang on, this ticks all the boxes on the criteria of banning a book. It's such a ridiculous argument, but it's so common. But it's just the extension of this thing where people want to project authority onto something, be it a book, be it a person, and instead of understanding that the whole purpose of spiritual practice is to lead you back to yourself, which is where the work is, which is your work, which you're going to have to do.
Can I share a story with you where this happened to
Fire
me?
away.
I had a really horrible experience with a woman who had done a lot of my like she'd learnt family freedom protocol and everything. Anyway, I was doing family freedom protocol masters and I was about to run it in Perth. And she says to me, can I crew it? And I went, no, because you haven't done it. I said, only people, if you've done the work, then you can crew one of my programs. Of course you can, but you can't have it. What she really wanted, she wanted to do it for nothing. So she thought if she crewed, that's how she's going to get it for nothing. And because I said no to her, she had me on this massive pedestal, and we'd spoken about it before. And I said to her, you've got to pull me off this pedestal where you've got me on. I said, because one, I'm a woman. Two, I'm human. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I'm a best friend. I'm a daughter. I fuck shit up. Right? I'm not Mother freaking Mary. Like, I'm not this great, I'm Emma. And she just didn't get it. This woman, God bless her, she was in a world of pain. And she was really, I think, looking at me as her way out.
Yeah.
And I think she thought if she was in with me, I was her lifeline. I am not anyone's lifeline. No one's lifeline. If you want to know how to be your own lifeline, I'll show you. I'll show you how to be that, but I am not your lifeline. The processes that I share and the process that I take you, fucking phenomenal. But you are your own lifeline, and I'll show you how to do that. Yeah. So I said to her, I'm sorry, babe, I can't, you'd have to do it if you want. And I was even offering some crazy ass freaking, like, if you can't afford it, that's okay. We'll do it next year, or just do a payment plan, whatever. She went on a rant, not to me. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Emma's only in it for the money, blah, blah, blah. And this was during lockdown. So when was lockdown?
2020.
2020. That was in 2020. It's 4 years ago. She blocked me, came out of all the groups, blocked, fine. You go do your thing. And apparently she's come out of the woodworks again. Because you and I doing work together, and she wants to do the work, and she's still in the same situation that she was 4 years ago, absolutely broke, absolutely broken, hasn't changed, hasn't done anything. And now still looking at pay. And I'm not the only one. There's so many of us that she's just pulling down. Oh, they're only in it for the money, only in it for the money. Yet what she's declaring is she wanted a $5,000 program free.
That's right.
So what was really happening? She wanted it for the money.
That's right.
And it's sad. And, for you practitioners out there listening to this, and you sit there and go, Emma, were you scared about it? Were you worried about it? No. This is how I focus on it. And this is my agreement with it. It's almost like people are out there that will say or do things. I think they're planted there to work for me, because if someone believes her, they are definitely not ready for this.
Yeah,
and it siphons out the people who are time wasters, and it siphons out the people who are energy vampires.
Yeah.
Because like attracts like. So if they like what she's saying, they definitely won't like what I'm saying. And it's kind of, I always look at it like, probably just saved me 6 months of hassle. Probably just saved me an hour being on the phone trying to talk to this woman. Probably saved me someone wanting to do a course and never paying me. Probably saved me that. That's great. Thank you. So do I worry about it? No. Does it hurt? Like a bitch. It does. And I'm not going to lie about that. It really hurts, because when you have an intention of, I'm here to help you, and then people want to shit on you, it really hurts my feelings. I get over it, but that's the agreement that I've got. The agreement is they're just another way of siphoning out the people who aren't ready yet. And I hope that helps people listening to this. But does it hurt? Oh my God, so much. It really hurts my feelings. It really does. I'm not Teflon. Sometimes I wish I was Teflon, but I'm not. Definitely not.
That's it.
So that was my little story.
It's hard, those things. I mean, but anybody who's whenever you're trying to help somebody to change, you're going to ask them to confront their pain body. And if they're not ready to do that, or basically if they're not ready to do that, then what happens is they're going to hate you for it. And
yeah.
so you have to be very discerning. We get caught in the idea, I think, of wanting to help everybody, and it's
Mm,
not always possible.
yeah.
So, and that's really important because, when you, particularly when you hang a shingle, when you're a therapist or you're something like that, you get out there and you say, "Yeah, I want to help people." Well, not everybody's ready to be helped.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah, there's an old saying about that is that every malady is curable, but not every patient.
No, I've never heard that one before, Joseph Parks. That's a good one. I like
Well,
it. I
so
like it a lot.
So the other thing is too, I think in that situation, it's important to remember. I heard an interview with Marianne Williamson years ago,
Mm,
and she said, just as she does, just one of the most amazing things. If you don't know anything about Marianne Williamson, she is, in my opinion, one of the most profound and skilled female spiritual teachers in the world today. And I don't say that female like it's a lesser rank. I say it is because there's so few of them. So
mm,
for a woman to be able to excel in that scope at the level where she is, that just shows you just how good she is. And there was an interview where she was asked about how she got savaged in the media and all this sort of stuff. And the person said, like, how'd you do with that? She said, well, I used to go home and I used to just weep and
yeah.
weep that this is what had happened to me. And then she said, I came to an understanding that people can say whatever they want about you, but they can't make it true.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a double-edged sword, that one,
Mm,
because within it, what she's saying is beautiful because it's true. People will say awful things about you from time to time. And when that happens, you have to look at it and go, is it true? And if it's not true, what am I doing that makes that believable?
mm.
And
That's
if I still
huge.
can't find it, if I still can't find the answer, then you go, well, fuck them.
That's
That's their
exactly.
shit. That's not my shit. That's their
Yeah,
shit.
that's so
Yeah.
true. When things like that happen, you kind of go through a cycle, and it's like first off for me, I get really sad, and then I get very practical about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's
No,
well, hang on
that's
a
how you
second.
overcome.
Yeah, and then it's like, hang on a second. Why am I in agreement with this energy? Like, is any part of it true? And also, I do this. If it's not, I don't just look, is it true in what that person's saying in that part of my life? I go, is it true in any part of my life?
Yeah.
And often you'll go, oh, it could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Interesting you
just
say, well, I didn't
sneakily over
realize.
there. It's sneakily over there. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
You got to look at all parts of your life.
And that's the other side of the sword, is that when
Mm,
although people can say whatever they want about you and they can't make it true, that's your problem. If you make it true, then it's true.
that's right.
So, and people do it. People do it a lot. We get caught up in it. So, yeah, it's a fascinating one.
Have you got any
I,
more on your list?
I yes, I do.
He's got the list.
I've
Jason
got,
Parks
I've got
has the
three things.
list.
I
Okay, go
wanted
for it.
to, sorry, I wanted to leave, I wanted to leave us with some things to do, not just
I love
things to
that.
avoid. Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the things about it is, it's like, well, how do I deal with this problem? Well, first of all, get clear about results. You've got to get clear about results. I was in a Buddhist tradition. I mentioned that before. Um, it changed over time.
Mhm.
I feel the seeds of it were always there, but I feel that there was it was more aligned with its original mission, and then later on that changed. And when that changed, what happened was I noticed that it was time for me to consider whether or not I would leave. And when I left for a very simple reason. Sakyamuni Buddha, who people call the Buddha, sat under a tree with the intention of understanding that in life there was suffering, old age, sickness, and death. And those are four problems. Now, if there's four problems, there must be solutions to those problems. So his commitment in sitting under that tree was to break through, to find out what the answer was. And he did. And that, what he broke through to, was an awareness of the divine in daily life. And that path that was left behind by him is what we call Buddhism. Now, when I was a practicing Buddhist, I was sick, I was suffering, I was old, and I nearly died on multiple occasions.
Wow.
And I looked at it and I said, what the fuck are you doing?
Mm.
Said, your results dictate that what you think you're doing is not what you're doing. So you have to look at your results. So whilst that's a bit of an extreme case, if you are seeking a teacher to assist you, or you're reading a book to assist you, you need to be applying it. You need to be following the advice as given, but you need to be observing the results. If those results are not matching what it's supposed to be, it is your responsibility to be able to check in on that and make decisions accordingly, because it's your practice. This is called conscientious discipleship. This is the part of the initiation where we give up our attachment, our childlike attachment to the fantasy of our parents, and we start to adult in the spiritual sense. So in order to be conscientious as a disciple in your own practice, you've got to have healthy boundaries. If you don't know what that is, go and bloody research like everyone else had to.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have clear outcomes. You've got to have clear responsibilities. There are no rights without responsibilities. They are exactly the same thing. So if you think you can get something from nothing in spiritual practice, that's your delusion. That's your pain body ruling the show. And the last thing to leave it for you is that understand that because someone is good at one thing doesn't mean that they're good at everything. And that happens in spiritual practice all the time. Said you get asked all the time, even when you're doing like as an energetic therapist, like you're doing therapy work, people break through and they have breakthroughs on certain things. They come back and they want to ask you advice about um, they'll ask you advice about what they should be doing with their finances, what they should be doing with this, what they should be doing with that. This is the point where you refer.
Yes.
You
Yes.
refer. You know, people say, I'm feeling so much better, should I go off my medication? What I say is, I can't tell you that because I didn't put you on the medication. What you should do is go back and have it reviewed by the doctor that prescribed it for you. If they think that your situation has improved so much, they'll probably change your medication.
Yep.
You refer them back to where they need to go. What people do is they get caught up in it and they go, oh, no, you don't need to do this and you don't have to do that and don't worry about that. And that's where you make a mess. I saw a bit of a clip. I ended up turning it off in truth, but David Goggins, he's big on YouTube. He was an ex-Navy SEAL, trains like an absolute beast. He's a freakish level of fitness and discipline, but it comes from immense trauma. I read his book, his autobiography, and it's like, oh, the trauma this guy's been through is just astonishing. And it's like, why does this guy superhuman in the way in which he punishes himself?
Because he can
Because
control
that's
it.
how he manages it. Yeah,
So
that's
he
right.
can control it. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
And I saw him addressing an audience, and somebody asked him about saying, oh, my wife wants to get a divorce. Why the fuck would you ask David Goggins? Said that guy is brilliant at what he does. He's not a marriage guidance counselor. He doesn't know your situation. He doesn't even know your wife.
Yeah.
Right? He doesn't know what kind of human being you are or how you've been in that marriage for maybe 20 years. But he got up and he gave advice on it. Right? And it's just like, what are you doing? That's why I turned it off. It's like, don't do it, man. Don't do it.
Yeah, that's
This is where we get caught in.
huge.
Yeah. So because someone's good at something, don't think they're good at everything.
Yep.
Someone will teach you about how to become more connected spiritually. Now, spiritual matters go through every aspect of life. That's true. But if you want to know what's a good financial investment, don't ask your spiritual advisor. You ask your financial advisor.
Yes.
If you want to understand what business systems you should use, get a business consultant. Don't think that the person who's good at meditation can teach you how to do that. They can teach you about dynamics and energy and all those sorts of things. They can, but they can't tell you about what's the right software package for your business.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. It's really important. Horses for courses. So
I love
conscientious
this.
discipleship, it's all about your responsibility.
Have you got anything else on your list, Jason?
No, that's my
There's
list.
the
That's
list.
enough. That's enough.
The list is done, people. That's a great list. Guys, that was a great podcast, if I may say so myself. That was a great podcast. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And please let us get in contact with us. Have a chat with us. Have you got anything else to say, Jess, before we cadoodle?
I just wanted to say to everybody, thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate that you're listening to this and the feedback we get. So these podcasts are just really, because the nature of it, we are limited in what we can talk about. That it's irresponsible for us to give knowledge past a certain point. So, but that knowledge past a certain point, well, that's what we do with our work. So if you want to know, look us up. Look us up. And you know what? We've always got something coming up. Like literally, this is me sharing. If you want to do the work, you've got to get involved in the work. Right? You got to get involved. Get onto our website, soulalignedresults.com. We've always got masterclasses coming up. We do mentoring, and we've always got a retreat coming up. So our next one, I don't even know, this might come out before or after. Got our next retreats in Bali, and then we've got another one in Victoria at the end of the year. So we've always got things coming up. We're always here to catch you. Yeah. We're always here to catch you. So thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in the next podcast. Bye. Thank you all. Bye.